On my previous video, people keep telling me that Bronya deserved to be on the top-tier support alongside Sparkle, May, and Robin. But for me, definitely not. There is a reason why Bronya is no longer a meta. That one thing I want to mention is very important because it will determine how each character can release their true potential. I will keep mentioning Bronya because she is a perfect example of how great support becomes a mid-character because of lacking one thing only. And that thing is easily solved by newer meta harmony like Sparkle, May, and Robin, or even sustainers like Fu Xian and Aventurin. Can you guess it? If you can't, then let me give you the breadcrumbs. Almost all characters in Honkai Star Rail have one thing in common, not only harmony, but literally everyone. They need to use their skill in order to release their true potential. Damage dealers must use their skill to deal damage, even for a character like Acheron, who deals her greatest damage from her ultimate. She needs to gain stack, and one of the best ways to do it is by using her skills each time she gets her turn. The same thing is also applied to sustainers. One of the best sustainers, Fu Xian, protects your team with her skill. And, of course, support or harmony characters are not an exception. But here's the problem. You can't use it carelessly without any consideration. You need to think about who you need to prioritize first because the number of skill points you have is limited. Usually, the ideal gameplay is to release your damage dealer skill each time they get their turn, because they are the ones who give the highest damage, and the only way to finish the game is by killing the enemy. So the center of your team is your DPS, and you need to save skill points for them. This is the ideal skill point usage in most team composition in Honkai Star Rail. But what happens if you lack skill points? The mainstream scenario usually goes like this. You only have one skill point left, and now it's your harmony unit's turn. The next one will be your DPS. What will you do if you use harmony like Bronya while using DPS like Seal within that scenario? You need to choose between buffing Seal's damage with Bronya or letting Seal kill one enemy with her skill so she can receive a resurgence buff because a basic attack is not strong enough to execute it. This kind of scenario usually happens when you are using a negative skill point support character like Bronya who only had one turn duration in her skill point buff. This limited duration will make you play on the harder mode of Honkai Star Rail because it will longer your turn because of the lack of buff your DPS will receive. You will constantly be confused about who you need to prioritize first. Where meta characters should make the game easier and faster, that's the main purpose of the title. The reason I keep saying Bronya is mid and doesn't deserve the top spot in the meta is that she has an issue with her skill points, not because her buffing capabilities aren't strong enough to compete with the newer harmony. Popular tier lists like Pridween also recognize this problem. Bronya is one of 3 characters alongside Chinkei and Imbibitor Luni with an SP unfriendly tag, and they decided to put her on T1.5, or 2 levels below the Great Trio Harmony and 1 below Ting Yun. Yes, she is even worse than Ting Yun, and I completely agree about this. Ting Yun, even though her damage buffing is not great, at least she is skill point friendly. And don't get me wrong, being mid-tier is definitely usable in many stages, they just mid compared to the higher ones. So the main requirement to become the best harmony in Honkai Star Rail is they need to be a skill point friendly character. No matter how big their buffing number is or even having unique OP skills like 100% advanced forward, they don't deserve it if they are not SP friendly. Because the main role of the harmony unit in this game is to support the main damage dealer, not ruining their rotation. The same thing applies to sustainers. Why did you think Fu Xian and Aventurin are meta characters? Is it because of their sustain capability? Yes, of course, but the other reason is because they are skill point friendly, especially Fu Xian. If only you need to recharge her skill each time they get their turn because their skill duration only lasts for once, then I'm 100% sure their rank on the meta will be down. The only role that can consume a lot of skill points is damage dealer. Skill point hungry characters like Imbibitor Luni are good as long as he can deal much damage. If you keep saying Bronya is still on par with them, especially Sparkle, because they have different numbers, Bronya with a higher damage increase and Sparkle with a higher critical increase, as I found on my previous video, or how Bronya has 100% advanced forward while Sparkle only has 50%, then I don't know what to say anymore. All of that is nothing if you can't release her skill because of the lack of skill points you have. The developer, Hoyoverse, definitely understands this problem. That's why they always make newer Harmony and Sustainers skill point-friendly characters. They started this trend with Luo Cha, who is probably the most SP-friendly unit in the game, and they continue to do this with the newest characters. They know if they make them skill point hungry, players will have a real issue when using them, and the sales will decrease drastically. Starting from this point, by looking at how they make limited support characters, I believe that Bronya's tier will only go down from time to time. Because SP-friendly will become a standard for newer supports, not something to be proud of.